Good morning. And it is a good morning. And it is a good morning when you are here with me. And it's good when we're all together. Welcome to the live in-person and live Zoom worship service of the the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside. Our opening hymn this morning is 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, from the gray hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, but please only with a mask on. Please stand, embody your spirit, and join us in singing hymn 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come, 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 whoever you are, condemned, worshipper, whoever you're leaving, ours is no caravan of disbelieving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, condemned, worshipper, whoever you're leaving, ours is no caravan of disbelieving. Come yet again, come.
I remember a time when the minister would try to lead us and he'd start that side and then the middle and then the other side. And we would all be singing together differently. Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us remotely by Zoom, where we will continue live streaming and posting these services on our YouTube channel for our virtual attendees. I am Nick Williams, a member of the worship committee, and I will be your worship associate today. Other members of the worship committee you will hear from include Alec Peck, also our technical person today, thank you, Alec, and Kate back at the soundboard. You're welcome. We will also be joined by Tinka Friend, who will be doing the sermon this morning. Might sign a few songs for us. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with muted electronic devices, please. We all come from different places, different religions, different beliefs, and different backgrounds. We hope you will find comfort, connection, challenge, and love here. We hope you will find ideas that resonate with you and inspire you to live authentically in your spiritual, local, and world communities. Although our doors are open, the pandemic is not over. So while we are in the sanctuary, please keep your masks on while singing or chanting. Let's all take personal responsibility to keep ourselves and each other safe. Before we move into the service, we have a few announcements we would like to share. We will mention several websites, email addresses, and phone numbers. At the end of the service, these will be left up on a slide with all this information, and it's available on our website. Our dinner series continues with pasta dinner on Saturday, February 18th. Tickets must be bought in advance. $25 for adults, $12 for children ages 6 to 16. Ages 5 and under are free. Tickets can be purchased on PayPal or from our treasurer, Kate, or from Robert in the office. Be sure to let them know if you're coming. If enough people do not sign up, our dinner may be canceled. Remember, this is a fundraiser and a delicious dinner for the price. It is also a great way to get caught up on the local lives in our community. And now, I invite you to sit back, take a deep breath, a slow, deep breath, as we move into our worship hour. You are welcome to read with me the mission statement of our church. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance social justice and environmental sustainability. So today's sermon was written by Reverend Bruce Clear. The Reverend Dr. Bruce Clark Clear was ordained in 1983, earning a doctorate from the University of Chicago School of Theology. In 1993, after serving in Vancouver, Washington, and Portland, he returned to his roots in Indiana, becoming the pastor of All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church in Indianapolis. Reverend Clear's work as a theologian and minister was defined by an abiding passion for social justice as the foundation for church community. As pastor in each of his churches, he became an active member of the local council of churches and an outspoken community advocate for progressive and humanitarian causes. Today's sermon reading, The Humanist in Me, is the first in a series of explorations of 3 different belief systems written by Reverend Clear. It says Bruce Clear. I thought it was Clark Clear. Okay. Humanism is an approach to life based on reason and our common humanity, a philosophy that stresses the human aspect of life here and now, and puts the responsibility for ethical behavior upon each individual. Humanists stand for the building of a more humane, just, compassionate, and democratic society using a pragmatic ethics based on human reason, experience, and reliable knowledge. An ethics that judges the consequences of human actions by the well-being of all life on earth. The lighting of our occupied Indigenous Peoples Remembrance Candle. We have 2 lightings of sacred flames. The first is the Occupied Indigenous Peoples Remembrance Candle. The second is the lighting of our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. We walk upon the traditional territories of diverse and sovereign peoples, the original people of this land, who cry out, who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. This spot we occupy was first the sacred space of several groups of indigenous peoples, including the Cahuilla, the Capeño, and the Serrano. We, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, light this sacred flame as the stewards of our sacred and holy place. We are blessed with a space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to be part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Our chalice lighting. Today's reading for the chalice lighting is The Flame We Kindle Now by Andy Pakula. May the flame we kindle now illuminate the world that can be. May it welcome all into that dreamed of peace, and may it guide our hands to make this vision a reality. Thank you, Bill. We have a tradition at UUCR to welcome those who are visitors or perhaps returning after some time away. We know it can be uncomfortable to stand up and speak in front of others, and so I will now ask for a volunteer from someone who has been here a while and to tell us your name and how you found out about our church. We ask you to step close to the microphone and speak directly and clearly so everyone can hear you. However, be aware that you will be visible on our Zoom camera and in the recording of this service, which is posted online. Do we have any church members who would like to volunteer, like Bud? No. Bill, come right up. Show us how it's done.
My name is Bill Rowe. We came to this church in 2004. Before that, we were at the Long Beach Church.
The Long Beach Universalist Unitarian Church?
Unitarian.
Thank you. That's how it's done. If you are new here, a visitor, or an old friend, please raise your hand to stand and come up to the mic in front of the pulpit. If there is someone online who would like to introduce themselves, please raise your hand and we will call on you by Zoom. Please let us know who you are, where you are from, and how you found out about us. No? Okay. Anybody on Zoom? Nobody's Zooming it today. Okay, well, for any other new guests, please join us for socializing and coffee hour after the service. We love to chat with you out in the parish hall, where you can also find a visitor's book. Please leave your name before you leave, and so that we know you, know who you are, and leave your contact information if you want to know about upcoming events. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the church office at admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. And now, our next hymn, We Are a Gentle, Angry People. Hymn number 170 from the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, but please only with a mask on. Please stand in body or spirit and join us singing number 170, We Are a Gentle, Angry People.
We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing for our Lord. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing
Thank you. You may be seated. I normally stand through our singing, but I fell a number of weeks ago, and so I'm due for physical therapy, but to stand for long periods of time gets to me. So I just take a little break during the singing, but my spirit is up there. Thank you. Thank you very much. This portion of our service is to support our beloved historical church. This can be accomplished in several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. You may contribute by PayPal using the QR code, which is shown, and as well as on the church website and in the newsletter. Stater Brothers Markets gives our church a rebate on Stater grocery cards, which we will have in the church each Sunday. You get the full value, and the church also receives a percentage for free. Please see Dinah Row to purchase the gift cards. Please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity, and to those who give of their time and their talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. Will our ushers now please come forward to receive the collection? Our next hymn is number 402, From You I Receive, from the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, but please only with a mask on. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 402, From You I Receive.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Our meditation today is I Am a Unitarian Universalist by John Corrado. Please join me in reading the bold italicized words. I am a man, I am a woman, I am a boy, and I am a girl, and I am a Unitarian Universalist. I am young, and I am old, and I am middle-aged, and I am a Unitarian Universalist. I am black and white, and I am yellow, red, and brown, and I am a Unitarian Universalist. I am married, and I am single, and I am divorced. I am heterosexual, and I am lesbian, and I am gay. And I am a college graduate, and I am a high school dropout. I am a white-collar worker and a blue-collar worker. I am retired, and I am unemployed. And I am Unitarian Universalist. I am an atheist, and I am a Christian, and a humanist, and a Jew, and a mystic. And I am a Unitarian Universalist. I am healthy, and I am ailing. I am an autistic child, and I am a palsied octogenarian. And I am a Unitarian Universalist. I am a law-abiding citizen who has never received anything more than a parking ticket, and I am a murderer waiting on death row. And I am a Unitarian Universalist. I vote Republican and Democrat and Socialist Labor Party. I have voted for George McGovern and Barry Goldwater, and I have voted for John Anderson and Gus Hall too. And I am a Unitarian Universalist. I am a Marine, and I am a pacifist. I am a conscientious objector, and I support a strong defense policy. And I am a Unitarian Universalist. I smoke, and I am a non-smoker. I drink socially, and I am an alcoholic. I am a vegetarian, and I love a good steak. And I am a Unitarian Universalist. I am many other things, some by choice, some by chance. And I am part of a common human destiny. I am part of humanity's family. And I am a Unitarian Universalist. Let us pause for a moment of silence and reflection. Now I would like to introduce Tinka Friend reading the sermon, The Humanist in Me. The sermon you will be hearing this morning was taken from the worship web found on the website of the Unitarian Universalist Association. You want to read that part? Oh, that's why it says sit. Okay. Sorry.
Before I start the sermon this morning, I just want to acknowledge that February this month is Black History Month, and so I wore the t-shirt in honor of 1619 was when the first slaves were brought, or when the first slaves arrived here on this land and were used as slaves. They were traded, bartered. In 2019, Nick and I went, and we're actually at Jamestown, which is where the ship that brought the Black people that were destined for the Caribbean, for slaves, and wound up in Jamestown, and they were running out of provisions. The running of the ship, and they were running out of provisions, and so they traded for about 20 of them, and we traded them for provision for food. And Jamestown used them as free labor. And Angela is the first Black slave that they have identified from the name. And they were actually doing archaeological excavation while we were there as part of the 16th department. And we got to the pragmatic. So I just wanted to put this out there as a little plain moment for Black History Month. The sermon you will be hearing this morning was taken from the worship web, found on the website of the Unitarian Universalist Association. It is the first in a series of 3 sermons by Reverend Bruce Clear. The series focuses on different beliefs, basically the 3 types of people that find a religious home within Unitarian Universalism: a humanist, a theist, and a Christian. You may or may not find parts of yourself in this series. Remember, these are the words of Bruce Clear, not mine. Please note that the sermon does not necessarily reflect the views of the reader. Although I will tell you, I find myself in here. Not completely, but The Humanist in Me by Bruce Clear. I've come to discover that what most people know about humanism, they learn from the lips of Jerry Falwell, Pat Robertson, and other tele-evangelists. It is a shame that this is so, but it is. One key leader of the religious right, Tim LaHaye, wrote an immensely popular book years ago about humanism that has probably been read by more people in this country than the works of humanist writer Bertrand Russell and John Dewey put together. Let me share with you what lots of people know or think they know about humanism as explained by LaHaye in his most popular book entitled The Battle for the Mind. Just a few excerpts I think will do. Humanism is not only the world's greatest evil, but until recently, the most deceptive of all religious philosophies. They are committed to doing away with every vestige of the responsible moral behavior that distinguishes man from animals. Humanist politicians permitted Russia to conquer the satellite countries of Europe and turn them into socialist prisons. Humanist politicians prevented us from winning in Korea and Vietnam, and they voted to give away the Panama Canal. No humanist is qualified to hold any government office in America. United States Senator, Congressman, cabinet member, State Department employee, or any other position that requires him to think in the best interest of America. Humanists work untiringly to keep parents from injecting any moral ideals into their children. Believe it or not, their goal is a worldwide generation of young people with a completely amoral or animal mentality. And luckily, the last one. The incident of rape has doubled in the last decade. An incredible increase in promiscuity, premarital sex, trial marriages, STDs, abortions, and so forth has soiled our social fabric. These immoral expressions of amorality can be laid right at the door of the atheist, amoral humanist that permeates our country. The book continues in this vein, on and on and on with invective against humanism. Since I think you probably get the idea mercifully, I will end the quotes here. I had thought before reading that book that Humanist was a small, esoteric group of deep thinkers with high ideals, but certainly not very powerful. Apparently, humanists have been busier than I had imagined. Now I discover from Mr. LaHaye that they have been busy spreading STDs and abortions, and to add insult to injury, they gave away the Panama Canal. I have been associated with humanist groups since I was in college. For most of that time, it has been my experience that humanists have been frantically, and for the most part unsuccessfully, trying to get their message out to the public at large. What they couldn't achieve, the religious fundamentalists did. Today, humanism has a name recognition far beyond the wildest dreams of humanists in past generations. They have achieved the status of a household word. The name is heard on the evening news, mentioned from some pulpits about as often as the Bible, and it is standard fare for letters to the editor. None of this, of course, was their doing. No amount of money could have purchased the widespread publicity, however inaccurate, that they received. And they owe it all to the religious right. For the record, humanism is not just the whipping boy of the religious right wing of this country. It was not simply created for the benefit of televangelist fundraisers to help put the fear of God into their potential contributors. No, humanism is an ancient tradition tracing back over the centuries, back to the early Greek thinkers. Those Greek thinkers, people like Socrates and Aristotle, identified human reason as far more powerful and effective than superstition, and urged civilization away from reliance on magical and supernatural understandings of life. In 1933, Harvard church historian, he has a lot of initials, J.A.C.F. Auer, offered the following definition of humanism in his book, Humanism States Its Case. Quote, humanism is a system of thought which assigns predominant interest to human affairs as compared with the supernatural or the abstract, and which believes that human beings are capable of controlling those affairs, end quote. Like most of us, I encountered the word humanism when studying the Renaissance period of history, when the great writers, artists, and scientists of our civilization turned their attention away from the heavens and discovered human beings in a new light. The scientific exploration of the Enlightenment added to the momentum of humanism by offering the scientific method as a new standard for evaluating truth, as a new measure for testing human knowledge. My own understanding of contemporary humanism came in high school by reading the writings of Bertrand Russell. This exceptional thinker represents, I think, much of the best of the humanist tradition. A thirst for knowledge, a commitment to justice, and an unswerving optimism about the progress of humanity. His one-page summary of his life, which introduced a 700-page autobiography, captures for me the spirit of humanism as it can be lived in real life. For those who think humanism has to be painless, I recommend the opening sentence. 3 passions, simple but overwhelmingly strong, have governed my life: the longing for love, the search for knowledge, and unbearable pity for the suffering of humanity. As a teenager, when I encountered the humanist philosophy exhibited through the writing of Russell and later John Dewey, this fresh approach appealed to me deeply. Some might say that I was corrupted through my reading of humanist writings in general and Bertrand Russell in particular, but it feels far closer to the truth for me to say that I was liberated by them. Humanism is not a particularly complicated idea. It is not a set of beliefs so much as it is a set of commitments. It means holding concern for this worldly matters, rather than other worldly matters, and being committed to that which improves the human condition in this world. Today, I find my link to the humanist view reinforced most strongly whenever I'm asked to lead a memorial service for someone who has died. It is at these times that I understand most clearly that the life we live here and now is what counts most profoundly, and that our speculations about other world issues have little more significance than that. Speculations. Let me offer one more description of the humanist view. One of the better summaries I found is in an unsigned pamphlet that was used by the Humanist Association I belong to for many years in Portland, Oregon. It said this: humanism is non-dogmatic and open-ended. It is the belief that human beings are the source of meaning and values. It is a scientific search, self-correcting, and open to change with new knowledge and new insights. Humanism is deeply concerned with ethics and values, but rather than telling people what they should or should not do, it assists their search for values and attempts to help them achieve their full potential as human beings. Humanists see humanity as having the capacity for contained growth and development, and they accept responsibility for encouraging that growth. Sound like anything you know? On the surface, this sounds suspiciously like Unitarianism, does it not? Well, it should, because Unitarians and humanists do, of course, have a great deal in common. And it's not just a surface similarity. As a matter of fact, humanism, as an organized movement in the United States, began within Unitarian churches. In the opening years of the 20th century, John Dietrich, a Unitarian minister in Spokane, Washington, later in Minneapolis, Minnesota, was preaching a non-theistic religion that he called humanism. In Des Moines, Iowa, a Unitarian minister named Curtis Reese was preaching a non-theistic religion he called the religion of democracy. When these two men met at a conference in 1917, they discovered the similarities of their messages, and Reese eagerly adopted Dietrich's label, humanism. Throughout the 1920s, the humanist view attracted many followers in the denomination. Eventually, the Humanist Fellowship was formed, largely by Unitarians at the University of Chicago. This group later recognized as the American Humanist Association. In 1933, a statement outlining the philosophy of humanism was published under the title, A Humanist Manifesto. Of the 84 people who originally signed the document, over half of them were Unitarian ministers. The most famous signatory, though, was John Dewey, the philosopher, who was then at Chicago and then later at Columbia University. In considering my own views, I must also consider the relationship of humanism and Unitarianism. I am a humanist, and I am a Unitarian Universalist. I have been a humanist longer than I've been a Unitarian Universalist. Like many others, when I discovered the Unitarian Church, I found that my humanist thinking not only was compatible here, it was welcome. This was a delightful surprise to me, as it has been for many, many other people. Is there a difference then between Unitarianism and humanism? Humanism is a movement. I have tried to show, as I have tried to show you, and it is deeply rooted in Unitarianism. It is also fair to say that Unitarianism as an organized movement is historically rooted in the long-standing humanist traditions of the Enlightenment. As compatible and related as they are, though, I believe that there are subtle differences in emphasis that ought to be recognized. One of the best statements of Unitarianism that I have seen that gets to the differences between Unitarianism and humanism is an article by Marvin Shaw, a Unitarian who is a professor of religious studies at Montana State University. The reason this is such an excellent statement is, of course, because Shaw agrees with me. He is saying something that I have been saying over and over for years until now I'm almost sick of saying it. And we've all heard it. Unitarianism is not about beliefs. It is about values. So if you want to know about Unitarianism, if you want to know what it is about, don't ask the question, what do Unitarians believe? That is not the proper question. Here's what Shaw says. The basis of unity in Unitarian Universalist churches and fellowships is not shared beliefs, but a common quest and the affirmation of the values necessary for its furtherance. Our liberal religious societies are not based on agreement as to belief, but on agreement as to method. We agree in affirming the value of a free and wide-ranging inquiry in religious belief. And we vow to establish an atmosphere in which the religious quest is nurtured and encouraged. This is about as good a summary of the Unitarian approach as I have seen. It is more important that we value freedom and respect for one another than it is that we value truth or our own version of truth. This attitude or orientation that Unitarians share at its roots in the humanist tradition. Humanism, if it has taught anything, has taught the value of free inquiry, free thought, and freedom of belief. But I do see a subtle difference in emphasis on this between the Unitarian approach and the humanist approach. It is common for Unitarians to summarize their values into these three words: freedom, reason, and tolerance. These are all words inherited from the humanist tradition: freedom, reason, and tolerance. The subtle difference in emphasis I see, though, is that in Unitarianism, the value of freedom takes precedence. And in humanism, the value of reason takes precedence. This does not mean at all that Unitarians reject reason or that humanists reject freedom, but rather, as I say, it is merely and subtly a difference of emphasis. Both approaches are highly compatible. As a result, my experience of humanism as it evolved in the United States is that it is less inclined than Unitarianism to incorporate a wide diversity of beliefs within its boundaries. And my experience of Unitarianism as it has evolved is that it is less inclined than humanism to require rational tests of acceptable beliefs within its boundaries. The risk involved for Unitarianism is that it seems to attract some flaky ideas and some flaky people. The risk involved for humanism is that it inhibits creative and imaginative ideas and people because they haven't passed the litmus test of rationalism. Let me give you an example. I would like to introduce you to 3 Unitarian friends of mine. I will call them Tom, Dick, and Harry. Tom, Dick, and Harry represent somewhat extreme examples, but they do, I think, illustrate the point. I think of Tom as rather strange. I'm sure he thinks of me in the same way. His ideas take him further afield of reality than I would ever dream of going. He loves to play with exotic fortune-telling gizmos like the I Ching and runes. And these are not just games to him, they are life-enriching activities. He doesn't really think they foretell the future or give sage advice, but he does find them intriguing enough to use in better understanding of his life. Tom has been into just about every psychological fashion that comes along. He takes his turn at pyramids and crystals. He knows about auras and demons, and of course, he is a strict vegetarian. Tom will share his explorations with me if I ask, but he doesn't insist that I try them too. Tom is into Eastern religions, and if you visit his house, you will find a little Buddha stuck up on top of a bookshelf. Tom spends a lot of time meditating in front of that Buddha. Now let me tell you a little bit about Dick. Dick is a Unitarian Christian. He reminds me continually that all the early Unitarians were Christians, and he is true to that tradition. Dick, of course, is a liberal Christian. He does not believe that Jesus was God or anything like that. He does not believe in such notions as the resurrection, but he does believe, and he will tell you about it if you ask, that Jesus's teachings are about how to live, about loving your neighbor, about serving the least of these. These teachings are the wisest teachings of any religion. In this sense, Dick is a follower of Jesus, a Christian. He looks to the teachings of Jesus as his ethical guide and the model of Jesus's life as his spiritual guide. He does not believe the Bible to be literally true. To him, it is a historical document like any other. But he does find in the Bible inspiration and insight into life's tough questions. Dick is a member of the Unitarian Christian Fellowship, an organization of Christian Unitarians that promote Bible study and other Christian activities. When the UU Christians gather together, they share in a Christian communion service. And then, of course, there's Harry. Harry subscribes to what he calls eco-spirituality. When I'm in the mood to kid Harry, I call him a tree hugger. Harry looks to nature for the source of his spiritual sustenance. One of the definitions of humanism that I read earlier said that it is the belief that human beings are the source of meaning and value. Harry would say, that's too limited. He does not distinguish humanity as separate from nature. So he would say that nature itself is the source of meaning and values. Harry is a pantheist. He does not believe in a God separate from the world, but believes that God permeates the world and all of nature. All of existence is sacred, and worthy of respect and reverence. A tree, a flower, a chickmunk, all are expressions of the divine, or so says Harry. Albert Schweitzer liked to refer to his philosophy as reverence for life. Harry extends his reverence beyond the human realm, beyond the realm of living organisms, to a reverence for the entire system of nature. Harry celebrates the turning of the seasons and the phases of the moon, the solstices and the equinoxes. All are part of his religious rituals. Harry considered joining the group called the Covenant of UU Pagans, CUPS. But the word pagan disturbed him, even if his ideas were similar to theirs. Now, I tell the story of Tom, Dick, and Harry, all Unitarians, to illustrate the subtle differences I see between Unitarianism and humanism. Neither Tom, Dick, nor Harry are typical Unitarians, but they fall easily within the Unitarian boundaries because they share the same values, though not the same beliefs, of other Unitarians. None of them believes that their way is the right way, nor do they think that others must believe as they believe. All of them respect reason, and though their beliefs are not rationalistic, that is, they don't hold that their beliefs have been proven by a scientific method, neither do they think that they are irrational, that their beliefs have been proven false. Freedom, reason, and tolerance. In Unitarianism, the primary value is freedom, and therefore, Tom, Dick, and Harry fall within the boundaries of Unitarianism, just as most humanism does as well. Freedom is primary, reason is secondary. But for humanism, as I have experienced that movement, the primary emphasis is to give reason over freedom. And generally, Tom, the meditating Buddhist, Dick, the liberal Christian, and Harry, the eco-pantheist, would fall outside the acceptable boundaries of humanism. Let me distinguish in a different way between the priorities of beliefs on one hand and the priorities of values on the other. I myself am a humanist because in my own beliefs, for my own religious journey, reason takes priority. I am a Unitarian in a broader context than my own because the value of freedom takes priority for me. I must confess that my life is enriched by my association with Tom, Dick, and Harry. I do not, nor do I think I ever could, subscribe to their religious beliefs. The humanist in me holds reason too highly to accept their worldviews. But my own journey in life is enhanced by knowing them and by discussing issues with them and even arguing with them. The Unitarian in me prizes freedom too highly to exclude them from my religious circle. The humanism I have described today is not all of me. There is more to me than just that. And this sermon is the first installment in a series. Later, we will hear about the theist in me, and after that, it will be the Christian in me. The humanism I present this morning is explicitly a religious approach to humanism. It should be acknowledged that there is an abundance of schools of humanism: religious humanism, secular humanism, atheist, and theistic, and so forth. The humanism in me is of the religious sort, meaning that it provides for me a statement of meaning which can guide my life. This is the approach to humanism advocated by John Dewey, one of the saints of humanism. His credentials are, I hope, impeccable. In 1984, the year after he signed the Humanist Manifesto, he published a wonderful little book called A Common Faith. In this book, Dewey distinguishes between religion, which he describes as a specific set of beliefs, and which he doesn't like. And so let me back up. Religion, he distinguishes between religion, which he describes as a specific set of beliefs and which he doesn't like, and religious, which is a specific quality of experience in which he does like. His thesis is that there is a religious dimension to human experience, whether or not one holds the belief of any specific religion. Dewey speaks out strongly against religion as an institutional force, but he urges us to embrace the religious quality of human experience in our lives, with or without a formal religion to go with it. Here's the way he describes humanism as religious. The sense of dignity of human nature is as religious as is the sense of awe and reverence when it rests upon a sense of human nature as a cooperating part of a larger whole. Understanding and knowledge also enter into a perspective that is religious in quality. Faith in the continued disclosing of truth through directed cooperative human endeavor is more religious in quality than is any faith in completed revelation. Any activity pursued on behalf of an ideal against these obstacles and in spite of threats of personal loss because of convictions of its general and enduring value is religious in quality. And this ends the first of 3 sermons by Reverend Bruce Clear. Our closing hymn is 1051 from the Teal hymnal, We Are. It will be projected, and I am not going to interpret this one. I'd urge you to look at the screen and follow along. So please stand in body and spirit and join us in singing the hymn, We Are.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are grandfather's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
We did. Our closing words are by V. Emil Gunmanson. And now may we have faith in life to do wise planting, so that the generation to come may reap even more abundantly than we. May we be bold in bringing to fruition the golden dreams of human kinship and justice. This we ask, that the fields of promise become the fields of reality. Namaste, amen, and blessed be.
Thank you, Tinka, for sharing your valuable time and reading the sermon for us this morning. It is sincerely appreciated, and we look forward to seeing you again. For those of you who would like to stay in the sanctuary for 10 to 15 minutes for questions or to share some discussion or observations from the service, please remain in the sanctuary or online. Please be aware that these comments will be posted online. For the rest of you, you are now welcome to adjourn into the parish hall. Leave some snacks. Is there anyone online who would like to share anything with us?
And I don't know if I can answer any questions since I didn't write this, but I certainly would encourage everyone to come up and share, how this touched you, or what parts of it you felt spoke to you or didn't, any kind of feedback about it.
Well, I like to be a rational person, having studied physics and math. But I do recall that as a child, when the dog that I grew up with, that is to say, the dog that my parents got as a puppy when I was born, and that dog actually died. Sorry. I used to look over at I've thought about this for a long time, look over at the stairwell going up to the second floor of my parents' house. And I could swear that dog was there many times. I was sure he was there. I'd look over, and of course there was nothing, but I could feel that he was there very strongly. And as I've gotten older, I buried about a year ago, I guess, a little doggy of mine as an adult. I didn't think of him as appearing someplace like I did when I was a child. But I do think of him as a kindred spirit. Thank you.
Thank you. But if we move this mic halfway, do you think you could come that way to share?
Would you care to share?
You need 5 minutes.
I've missed a few Sundays, and
Lots of reasons, but I'm glad to be back here. I think Tinka did an exceedingly good presentation of an awful lot of information, but it was wonderful. I would really, I intend to bring, you're going to do Christianity. I intend to bring my wife down. I think she would like it. Don't tell her. I think she needs it. Don't tell her. Promise.
Did any of it speak to you, Bud? Did any of what you heard?
Oh, it was a lot to process. It was just an awful lot of good information, but I could pick and choose things to focus on. It was wonderful. It's something else I have to read.
I agree.
I've got so many things to read. But the minister is wonderful, very thoughtful, intelligent. People who had him as the minister were very fortunate.
Mm-hmm.
We need something like that.
Yeah.
Help.
Yes, unfortunately, Reverend Clear just died last year.
Have you ever met him?
No, I had not. I had heard of him though. So I'll share just a little brief. I consider myself, I think between the three, I don't know, I find myself, there are pieces of all of them that fit into me, which I think is why I feel so comfortable being here and, within Unitarianism. But there are definitely, the thing about looking at the human thing, and that we can't wait for somebody else to solve the problems of the world. It's up to us. It's the humans here. And that the things that are happening here, the good things and the bad things, are created by us. And therefore, it needs us, all of us, us to solve them. So I agree with you. There was a lot when I was going through it. There's a lot to process, and there's a lot of information. There's historical information, historical information about Unitarianism, historical information about humanism. There was, so there was a lot to process, but I really appreciate that he took the time to, I liked his Tom, Dick, and Harry, of kind of characterizing three different characters that kind of fit into, that most of us have met at, UU churches, not just here, but, in other churches as well. And the fact that we can religiously coexist so well and not just exist in our little thing, but having that interaction and that discussion enriches each of us, no matter what our belief is, that it doesn't have to diminish what we believe if someone else believes something different, that it actually can enrich me and enrich what I believe. So I appreciated that. I liked the Tom, Dick, and Harry, and we're going to be meeting, we're going to be, and that he chose to do this not all in one sermon, but that there's enough there, to spread it apart and put it into 3 sermons. So I appreciated that on his sermon. Bill?
The thing I noticed at the end when he was talking about Harry there, the classic model for a pagan is that they don't pray very often. And as opposed to some sort of essentially a sort of a channeling, some theurgic use of energy, but that there's less of a use of prayer. I think the thing that we have with this thing is we have to do 2 things. One, be ready for middle points that pop up, like I'm a pagan and I do pray frequently. Sometimes the magical act is very hard to put together for me, either just due to organization, trying to quickly get the focus. Sometimes you can't get, it's easier to say, God save me, when the traffic lurches on you, than it is to be doing some magical act to make you feel good about being in the car. So prayer is quick. It doesn't even have to always be used in words. So we have to be used to, for one thing, now that we've got the map, we have to be used to, because we love our fellow man, to see once in a while some lurches and changes. You'll run into Christians who have a certain belief in karma, or at least if you set the vibration for a particular thing, that will be drawn to you. So first of all, be ready for there to be some notable changes in the definition. Second of all, make a real point, especially as Unitarians, when you name yourself after the whole honking universe, you kind of got to drag them with you. It isn't one of these things where I've got the right spot. It's the right spot for me. As for the other, it's like if I'm looking at the world at large seeming to go down a bad direction, I'm going Christian, pagan, or humanist. There's this is a good idea, this is a bad idea, and this is what we need to go after. You make room for allies, and honestly make them allies, because sooner or later there's going to be the guy who believes differently than you, and is going to put their energies in that direction, and you want their universe to manifest real too sometimes. I don't know about Super Bowl Sunday, but as a general rule, you're going to want them to have their life manifested sometime and not be chopped off.
Thank you.
That's what I think.
I'm Nick Williams, and I am a Universalist Unitarian. And so, this, in the beginning of the sermon, he spoke about what others say about us and them and the others. And it reminded me that how these peace-loving, God-loving people that are out there to do good works so quickly demonize others that don't follow their exact way of thinking. And that what we've seen in the recent past is nothing new. And ever since we've got this electronic stuff, really has given some people, I think, it's given them way too much room to talk. But they have the right to talk, as we do.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank did you want one more thing to say?
Sorry, I suddenly can sum it all up for myself. If there's reincarnation, I come back, I'll come to this church and I'll do as I did in the past. I'll surely look for women. Only this time when they say, what do they believe? I'll say, it's not belief, it's value. And then I'll say, let's go to lunch.
Grace, was there anything you wanted to share? How this sermon affected you, or?
One of the things that struck me was when you were, which one was it, Tommy? Harry, the naturalist, or whoever believed in nature. So he embraced these beliefs about nature, yet he was uncomfortable with the label pagan. He said that bothered him. And that made me think, there may be certain labels that we're not ready to paste onto ourselves, but we do have fragments of beliefs that do fall under universalism, which is a very appealing idea.
Thank you. Yes, in fact, what you just said reminded me in my spiritual journey before I came to this church. If if anybody was to ask me, I would say, well, I actually heard this. I heard this at a retreat of Al-Anon members and AA women. There was a retreat for women who were on both sides of alcoholism, the alcoholic and also the family member. And it was about spirituality. And I was so uncomfortable because I had rejected my childhood, and I shared that last week. And she said, my God is green and leafy. And that just went straight into me, into my essence, into my being. I feel that there is something sacred, something religious, something powerful in nature. And so I do, if I want to feel, well, anyway, it does. And so I went, oh, wow, gee, and then I thought, because I was having a hard time with 12-step, you have to believe in a power greater than yourself. And I felt like I was cheating because I didn't really, and I thought, well, wait a minute, the wind is more powerful than I am. Like nature, right? I can't stop a waterfall, a hurricane, it's more powerful. So at the beginning of my journey in 12-step work, it was that nature was my power greater than myself. My journey has gone in various other places, and I now feel that I do have like a loving God and I too, when I came to this church, the pagan, we had a cups group, and I loved everything they did but I hated the word pagan, and that's because of the definition that had been attributed to it from Christianity, and everything else. And so yeah, that what you shared, like, yeah, I really can relate to that. You're right, and I discovered that too, actually, within the walls of this church and within our denomination, that when you let out you have this real Christian leaning, that sometimes there is, kind of a little wall there. So I want to thank all of you for being here. I know it was a long sermon and very detailed and lots of information, and I appreciate that. I tried to make it lively enough that you didn't fall asleep too much in it. And I appreciate you being here and so early in the morning, grasping all of this, what I think is important information, and especially on a Super Bowl Sunday. So thank you very much, and let's go have some snacks.